Okay, so if you're a clinician, you're hearing about artificial intelligence everywhere, right? But what does it actually mean for your day-to-day practice? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut through all the hype and give you a really practical guide to using AI responsibly. We'll cover the real benefits, the serious risks, and how it's already popping up in the clinic.
First things first, let's talk about the elephant in the room, all that paperwork. The administrative burden is a huge driver of burnout. I mean, we've all been there, right? Spending hours on documentation after a long day. So the big question we're kicking off with is this. Could this new wave of AI tools actually help solve that problem?
To answer that, we really need to start thinking of AI as a brand new instrument in your clinical toolkit. And just like any other powerful instrument you use, you've got to understand what it is and how it works before you can use it safely and effectively.
You know, it's really important to get that AI in healthcare isn't exactly new. We've had traditional predictive models for decades. Things that calculate readmission risk, for example. Their logic is transparent. It's based on rules that we can actually look at and validate. But generative AI? That's the game changer. It is a completely different beast. It creates brand new content from scratch, but its reasoning can be a total black box, which makes it incredibly powerful, but also brings a whole new set of risks to the table.
And you've probably heard of some of these tools: ChatGPT, Claude, Microsoft Copilot. We're also seeing more and more of these tools getting embedded directly into electronic health records. Now, here's the thing you absolutely have to remember. Not all of these tools are created equal. The public versions you can find online might not have the privacy and security safeguards you need for patient information, and that's a critical distinction we're going to keep coming back to.
And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, right? This central tension. Because generative AI offers some incredible promise, but that promise is balanced by some very real perils. And understanding this trade-off, well, that's the key to using it responsibly.
So let's talk about the promise. The biggest one? Efficiency. Just imagine an assistant that can draft your initial progress notes for you or summarize a really complex, multi-year chart history in just a few seconds. This is all about cutting down on that after-hours pajama time that so many of us spend buried in paperwork. But here is the immediate, and I mean immediate, peril. These models can hallucinate. That's the term for when they generate incorrect or just completely fabricated information. And the real danger? An AI can sound incredibly confident and authoritative even when it is dead wrong, making up lab values or misquoting clinical guidelines without blinking an eye. Now, even with that massive risk, let's look at another key promise. Because this isn't just about saving time, it's about saving your mental energy. We all know that editing a draft is so much easier than staring at a blank page. By handling that first draft, AI can help reduce your cognitive load, and that frees up your brain power for the really complex, high-stakes decisions that truly need your expertise.
And beyond just making stuff up, there's another huge peril we need to tackle: bias. See, AI models are trained on these massive amounts of existing data. And guess what? That data is full of historical and systemic biases. If we use these tools without a supercritical eye, we risk not just repeating those biases, but actually amplifying them, which could make health disparities for vulnerable populations even worse.
Okay, so we have this really powerful tool with huge upsides and some pretty scary downsides. So what do we do about it? Well, this next section is all about the rules of engagement, the practical guardrails you need to use your new AI assistant safely and responsibly.
If you remember only one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. This right here is the core principle. AI is a tool to support you. It is not a replacement for you. The accountability for every single decision, every note, and every patient outcome still rests 100% with you, the clinician. And a huge part of that responsibility is knowing the tool's limits. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't use a stethoscope to set a broken bone, right? In the same way, you have to recognize when reaching for your AI assistant is just not the right move for the situation. So, when should you absolutely not use it? Well, definitely not in emergencies or time-critical situations where every second counts and accuracy is everything. You got to avoid it for high-risk or irreversible decisions. Be extremely cautious in complex patient cases that have a ton of nuance. And this one is non-negotiable. If the tool isn't explicitly approved for clinical data by your organization, you cannot use it for patient care. Period. Protecting patient information has to be your top priority. It all comes down to a pretty simple 4-step process. First, unless a tool is officially approved, you have to treat anything you type into it as if it's public. Second, never, ever, ever include patient identifiers. Third, only use the absolute bare minimum details necessary and make sure they're de-identified. And fourth, always follow your organization's policy. All right,
enough with the rules and principles. Let's make this really concrete. We're going to walk through a couple of common scenarios you probably face pretty much every day in the clinic.
So in our first example, imagine a patient sends you a message through the portal. They've had a persistent cough and they're asking for medication. Now, you could use an approved AI tool to help draft a response. It might generate a really safe, empathetic message that includes key follow-up questions like asking about fever or shortness of breath. That saves you time, for sure. But, and this is the important part, you, the clinician, are the one who has to review that draft, validate everything in it, and ultimately make the clinical call on what to do next.
Okay, here's another one you probably see all the time. A patient messages asking for a levothyroxine refill but gives you zero details. An AI assistant can draft a reply that prompts them for all the necessary info, their dose, their pharmacy, and maybe a little reminder to check for recent labs. It helps streamline the workflow, but again, you are the final checkpoint. You are the one who has to confirm that the refill is clinically safe and appropriate for that specific patient. So let's bring this all together. The theme that runs through every single one of these points is that the clinician must always be in charge. This is about being empowered by a new tool, not about being replaced by one. This quote from the source material really just says it all, doesn't it? At the end of the day, you remain fully responsible for every clinical decision, all the documentation, every patient communication, and all patient outcomes. The buck always stops with you. So what's the big takeaway here? It really comes down to this simple 4-part checklist that you can run through in your head every time. First, de-identify your input. Second, follow your organization's policy. Third, verify the output. Treat everything it gives you like a draft that has to be checked. And fourth, own the final output. It's your signature, it's your license, and it's your responsibility on the line. Look, AI is here, and it's quickly becoming just another tool in our clinical toolkit. It absolutely has the potential to help us be more efficient, more focused, but only if we use it wisely and responsibly. So the question I want to leave you with is this: AI is a new tool in your kit. How are you going to use it?